as well as I just am gonna start again. Okay.
Hustle hard, staying sweet, side jobs make ends meet, secrets flow, we know the way, grind today,
Hustle harder and starting again. Got it. Hey, welcome to Side Hustle Secrets, your exclusive channel for earning more, working smarter, and keeping your sanity intact while doing your gig work and side hustles. And we have a lot to cover today. But speaking of sanity, today we're going to talk about first, mental health. And the reason we're going to talk about that is that this is actually really hard work. I think that a lot of people, when they first maybe get into gig work, and especially people who see it from the outside, think that this work is actually just very, very easy. Just put the fries in the bag, bro, right? But it's not. You have to learn a lot of complex things to be an effective gig worker. You have to learn time management, you have to learn customer service, you have to learn business secrets, you have to learn all of these things. On top of it being a job and a gig that is just really hard on you. So I want to start out today's video by just acknowledging you. If you do this either full-time or part-time or some of the time, it's not an easy gig. It's definitely not as easy as people make it seem out to be. And, you know, honestly, I hope that's one of the reasons that you're here, because we see each other, because we see that you work really hard and that you're just trying to make the best for everything, for you, your family, and for yourself. So I guess I would start out today's Side Hustle Secrets video by just acknowledging it's not as easy as people say that it is. Number two, I see you. And number three, I hope that you're doing okay. So let's get into a lot of the very interesting stories that we have to cover today. Because today is Sunday, we're going to talk about a big update from DoorDash. DoorDash has changed its instant payment platform. Oof, I don't know how I feel about this one. So if you use DoorDash, if you are a DoorDasher, a Dasher, and you selected the instant payment option, you're probably using something called Dasher Direct, or cashing out every single day. Dasher Direct was an instant account that was set up so that as soon as your dash was completed, the money goes to a separate bank account that you have access to, either through that banking system or through the Dasher Direct card. Now, a lot of Dashers like to use Dasher Direct for a few reasons. Number one, as soon as you dash, that money's available. You could literally use the card, go buy something moments later. Number two, a lot of Dashers do like to keep their money separate from DoorDash as quickly as possible. If you go on any of the forums, you'll see that a lot of Dashers have had problems where DoorDash has held their money for whatever reason. And it just feels better to know that your earnings are with someone else if that's the case. Well, DoorDash is actually moving to a brand new platform called DoorDash Crimson. It is completely removing its ties and associations and partnerships with Dasher Direct, and it is hard forcing those people over to DoorDash Crimson. In fact, I just got a message the other day that my DoorDash Dasher Direct is going to move automatically to DoorDash Crimson in the next few days. In fact, it will automatically transition on the 21st. So this is a big change. And for me personally, I'm a little bit concerned about it because I liked having a little bit of distance between myself and DoorDash. So your DoorDash Crimson account is actually issued by Starion Bank. So in theory, there is a little bit of separation, but the Crimson account is actually directly tied into your DoorDash account. So, you know, if I'm gonna make some predictions here, I think that DoorDash wants to have more control of and knowledge of your financial habits. That's really good, very valuable data for a company to have. And DoorDash has made no secret that it seeks to monetize this type of data. So my suspicion here is that part of this partnership is so that DoorDash can have, analyze, and use that data to make more money. Now, I do think it is a bit odd, and to kind of answer my earlier question, but to underscore how much anxiety this causes, the last question in their frequently asked questions section is, how do I access my DoorDash Crimson account if I have been deactivated? And they are saying that it is completely separate and you have access to that sort of thing. So I don't know. It's not something that I'm looking forward to. I'm curious what your thoughts are as to the migration of DoorDash Crimson. I really got used to Dasher Direct. It was a really great and convenient way to manage that money, have instant access to it. And I thought the customer service, in my experience, was always really good. So DoorDash Crimson is coming, whether you like it or not. Get ready to make the change. Of course, you do have other options if you use DoorDash. You can transfer weekly to your bank account, or you can instantly cash out to a debit card. So you do still have some interesting options. Now, speaking of DoorDash, I actually have a pretty major news story coming from DoorDash this week. So last week we spoke about a scammer who was murdered for stealing money from a DoorDash driver. In fact, 700 DoorDash drivers to be exact. This week, we're actually going to talk about entirely different story, the complete opposite, in fact. In this week's story, we actually found a DoorDash driver was arrested for threatening to kill a McDonald's employee. And this actually happened on the 16th of January, and it happened in Cypresswood. Hey Gemini, where is Cypresswood located? Harris County, Texas? Yeah, that's like Houston. Okay, so this one is wild to me. So apparently this gentleman, Wister Kobas, got irate with a McDonald's employee after they refused to give him the order after he had proof of the delivery request. So this is that classic, hey, please confirm this order. And this guy took it way over the top, apparently threatening to kill a McDonald's employee over, hey, can you please confirm the order? Now, we don't know a ton of details about this, but this is something that we see often and all of the time. Restaurants, first of all, how many times have you gone to pick up an order and it's been stolen or it's missing? Or how many times have you had this exact conversation? This is a really good example of someone who should not be doing DoorDash. Restaurants have every right to ask you to confirm the order before leaving the store. And honestly, I don't understand why people really get bent out of shape about confirming the order. Listen, it's just a matter of being courteous. Now, if you're doing things like multi-apping or there's a reason that you're not confirming the order, just be intellectually honest with yourself or build better relationships with the store. I'll give you a really good example. There's a few casinos here in Las Vegas where if I hit confirm order every single time, I would be late because by the time I got from the casino to my car, I would never have enough time and then I would be really pushing it with that delivery window. Sometimes it takes 5 or 10 minutes just to walk to the car from the casino. So what you have to do in those instances is you have to build relationships with people. And sometimes that means, clicking the order and getting to your car a little bit faster. At the end of the day, I'm really clear on where I stand on this one. If the restaurant asks you to confirm the order, you really should be confirming the order. Remember, as a DoorDash driver specifically, a restaurant can very, very easily block you as a dasher. All they have to do is navigate to their tablet and click block, and you're done. So you might have a great restaurant with great customers and great tips, and if you get a little bit salty, you're never gonna see that restaurant again. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about that to fix it. Now, certainly, getting to the point where you're threatening to kill someone because they asked you to prove or confirm the order is not acceptable. But I think it goes back to what we earlier talked about. For whatever reason, we're all experiencing a lot of strain right now. I think we all can acknowledge that. And this work, when you're experiencing strain, can really add onto that. So sometimes I think it's best, if you're feeling that stress and strain from doing gig work, to take a little bit of time out, acknowledging that that's happening, acknowledging that's what you're feeling, and sometimes just like being honest with yourself. Obviously, no amount of stress from doing gig work should result in you threatening to kill someone. But hopefully, you can take a little bit of time to refresh, reset, and try again. So the next question is actually a little bit of a question and then a tip. So I was thinking about things that make deliveries challenging and how to be better at customer service. And one of the classic things that comes up is to ring or not to ring. And what I mean is, when you're delivering and you dropped off the order, do you ring the doorbell by default? When I first started doing DoorDash, I had a very different strategy than I do right now. So let's hear it. Do you ring the doorbell or do you not ring the doorbell when you drop the order off? What do you think is the right thing to do? Okay, well, I actually have some data here that's gonna help you make that decision. So most of the people that use gig app and delivery services fall into the younger and wealthier demographics. We know that because of this demographic, they tend to be better with technology and they tend to be more aware of and use the full app features and functions within their device and their app. So specifically for DoorDash or Uber Eats or Grubhub, they're really watching that phone to understand if you dropped the order off. So I'm really curious to see what you answered in the comments, but the best thing to do by default is to not ring the doorbell. There are so many hilarious memes on the internet about people who get really freaked out when the DoorDash driver is at the door, and especially if they're waiting. You all know how I feel about meat at the door orders, by the way. But what I've learned about customer service and ratings with this app specifically, with Uber Eats, with Grubhub, is if you're dropping the order off, drop the order off, take the picture, and go. I think we're starting to see an increase in the number of notes or something that's like, don't ring the doorbell, please don't ring the doorbell. And a little funny thing I've noticed. Apparently a lot of people have sleeping babies. There's a ton of notes that I see all the time. But what I found out is that's actually a tip that's been circulating around where people will say, hey, if you're worried about this, just put that you have a sleeping baby in your notes and hopefully they won't ring the doorbell. Now, that leads us to the next part of this very same topic, which is if your customer has a note that specifically says, please ring doorbell or please knock, you definitely want to make sure that you do ring the doorbell or knock. Because for some reason, maybe they don't check their app, maybe they're not comfortable, maybe they're ordering for someone else. In that case, yeah, it's totally okay to ring the doorbell. In fact, you definitely should ring the doorbell. But if not, leave it there, take the picture, get back in your car, and head out. Not ringing is gonna lead you to better reviews and better tips. So that's a little bit of a tip and the trick for today, but I'm curious what your thoughts in this area are. One of the functions and features of the DoorDash Crimson Card is actually similar to Dasher Direct, which is cash back for charging your car or for getting gas. I'm curious if this means anything to you. Do you use that feature? I mean, you put a lot of miles doing gig work, so getting 3% back on gas could really add up over time. Is that a benefit that you enjoy, or is it just fancy talk from DoorDash Crimson? I'm curious to see. Do you actually take advantage of that benefit? Speaking of benefit, another one that I've really noticed. Today, while I was driving, believe it or not, my trunk stopped opening. Leads us to a little bit of a tip for today, which is to be, you need to be comfortable with very basic maintenance while you're doing this work. But also, you do put on a lot of miles doing any type of gig work, whether that's regular Uber, Uber Eats, DoorDash, or that sort of thing. Okay, so we are gearing up for 2 of your biggest days of the year as a gig worker. Can you guess what 2 days I'm talking about? If you guessed the Super Bowl and Valentine's Day, you're totally correct. You're gonna make some of the most money all year on these 2 holidays. Holidays, I guess just days. Yeah, days. So, first of all, Super Bowl, your classics. So I do have some tips on working on the Super Bowl. I'll make sure that I share with you that I learned doing this work. Number 1, you're going to be very busy. Get on earlier in the day if you can, like 10, 11 o'clock, because the orders start pouring in, but they get very busy during game time. You're gonna see this sort of classic orders during this time frame. What do you think those are? That's right, it's gonna be things like wings, things like pizza, that classic American football fare, right? So get ready for those things. But a couple of sort of items you should be aware of and prepared for. Restaurants get very backed up when the game starts. So that is the worst time for pickups. So you really want to make sure, if you know your restaurants in your area, that you are ready for that. In Las Vegas, where I work, restaurants like Wingstop, Buffalo Wild Wings, they are packed. But you could end up waiting 45 minutes in line just to get an order. Now, some of these tips are absolutely bonkers, and so you're gonna have to make some tough decisions as you're waiting for those orders. Is it worth waiting 30 minutes for a $40 tip? It might be, but are you missing a few, successive $20 orders in that same time? That is very possible on Super Bowl day. So the big restaurants that you're gonna see busy that day are like your Wingstops, Buffalo Wild Wings, Pizza Hut, Little Caesars, all that sort of like anything that you could think of people watching, football and eating are going to be very, very busy. You do want to be mindful of how much time you're busy waiting at that restaurant. So if you've never worked a Super Bowl before, this is something you should mentally prepare yourself up. I have a list of restaurants based on last year that I know for sure I'm not going to be waiting at. So I'm going to keep an eye out for that. Equally, there are restaurants here that I know that they're very accurate on their turnaround times. So if I see an order at maybe a wing spot that I know is going to take a long time, and an order that pays a little bit less at a restaurant that I know is really good, I'm going to pick the one that pays a little bit less because I know that time is money on Super Bowl Sunday. So just be aware of that. And then Valentine's Day. You're going to make a ton of money on Valentine's Day. So make sure that you are out and ready to go. In my experience, the restaurants that tend to do well on Valentine's Day are the sort of like couple sit-down restaurants where maybe the couple is at home eating because maybe they have different plans for their Valentine's Day evening. So think about where that could be for you. But the same thing is also true. You want to be mindful of wait times, all that sort of thing. You're not going to experience this sort of chaos because Valentine's Day goes all day and all night long that you will in the Super Bowl, but you do want to be mindful of the location and the place that you are. What I mean to say here is for both days, if you find yourself waiting past that 10-minute mark, I promise you're going to get another order if you decide that you can't wait another 10 or 20 or 30 minutes to get the next order. So it's okay to let go of an order after if you waited long enough on one of those days because you're not going to have any problem getting another order. So good luck on Super Bowl Sunday and on Valentine's Day. I hope you make so much money. I hope it's really sweet. Okay, speaking of Instacart, tonight we're going to talk about a little bit of a tip, and you could use this on anything that you're shopping for groceries. As you know, produce can be one of the hardest things to pick out because everyone has very specific preferences for their produce. And honestly, one of the things that I struggle with is onions. What makes a good onion? So let's talk a little bit about what makes a good onion. So first of all, this is a yellow one, the PLU 4166. If you're a shopper, you know PLUs matter. So for a good yellow onion, so it's gotta be firm, right? We wanna make sure that the onion is firm and that it has a papery skin. See how the skin is papery? That's really important. So one of the things, the more sort of elongated the onion is, the easier it's going to be to cut and dice. So this fellow right here might not look like it if you don't do a lot of onion shopping, but this is an elongated onion. A bad onion would be short and fat. This is going to make it more challenging. If the paper's all peeled off the onion at the store, your customer's probably not going to be super happy with that, especially on a yellow onion. If it gets all the way and you can see like the underlaying, I mean, that's part of what keeps the onion fresh is its own natural sort of wrapping. It's got its own natural wrapping, right? So some other things to be aware of in terms of, when you're picking an onion, does it have noticeable big bruises? The bruises are going to be soft. They're going to be like discolored and soft, so you want to watch out for that. You want to watch out for obviously any significant discoloration. I mean, this is like a perfect, I did not pick this onion out, my wife did, so it's obviously perfect. But those are kind of some of the things that you want to notice. So like, look at the shape of this onion. This is very classic onion shape, right? Produce is kind of tough this time of year especially, and you'll see onions that are very skinny, which you want to avoid. You'll see onions that are sort of like an egg almost. They look like more like an egg, so you want to kind of avoid that. And then, I hate to say, but like onions that are like very, very dirty, you want to kind of avoid as well, because that's just extra work that your customer's going to have to do. But, as you get, like when you get to maybe inventory that's a bit lower, the onions that are bad, they get picked up, and what do they do if they're bad? They throw them back. So they're gonna have more bruises, they're gonna be discolored, they're gonna have different shapes, all sorts of problems like that. So if you wanna know like what a great yellow onion is, that bad boy right there. That's a beautiful yellow onion. It's got the papery skin. It's got a really, really good color to it. And if you're really new to this and you're not sure, just ask. Ask someone at the store, or ask the nice, the nice lady shopping for onions, or the nice gentleman that looks like they know what they're talking about. People really are good at their heart and they do want to help you out. And it's okay if you don't know what you're looking for, but I hope that was a little bit of a trick. So you're looking for a nice firm onion, a little bit of an elongated shape to it. You're gonna wanna stay away from bruises. You're gonna stay away from big discoloration, dirt, that sort of thing. Odd shapes, weird feel. Sometimes if you pick up an onion you're shopping, like it physically feels lighter than it should. You're like, this should feel heavier. That's a bad onion, so don't get that one. Anyways, I hope that you don't cry when you're selecting onions in the future, because you get a little bit more tips here, and I hope that's helpful. We'll cover a little bit more of those, because it's okay not to know what you're looking for. You just got to learn how to get better and learn on your own. That's it for today on Side Hustle Secrets. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to submit comments if you see anything you'd like us to cover in the future. I hope this has been helpful, informative. Remember, we're just here to help you make more money, hustle a little bit harder, preserve your mental health, and have a great time. I really appreciate you stopping by. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe.